For this next project, we're going to be creating portraits, and I'm really excited to see all of the different portraits and directions that you take this project. But the main thing that I want you to walk away with from this assignment is being able to create portraits with accurate detail. So looking at the facial features, being able to shade them in and add detail to them with accurate value change while implementing and using a color scheme within those portraits, along with adding background techniques and textures to them as well. Here's the example that I use on a lot of the videos that you're going to be working with for this project. And this is showing the three kind of main steps that we're going to be taking. The first is photographing a reference picture for this project. So for your portrait, you can use whoever you would like. However, it cannot be a celebrity and it cannot be a photo that is online. So you do need to take your own original photo for this project. It could be a self-portrait like what I did, or if you would like to take a picture of a friend or a family member, you could do that as well. But we're going to talk about taking those photos with good lighting and contrast. So when you move on to the second step, which is posturizing your photo, you're able to have that good lighting that gives you excellent and easy highlights, shadows, and medium tones to pick out. But the second part of the portrait is going to be the step where you posturize the image, which is breaking the image up into those highlights and shadows, and the computer will do it for you. There's a program that you'll use, so it's super easy. But the purpose of doing this is to allow you to have those nice 3 sections of value change where you're going to print this picture out, and then you're going to trace it onto a piece of paper and outline all of the dark areas, all of those medium gray areas, and all of the white areas. That way you don't have to worry about getting accurate proportion, but you have a nice layout of value to start with. And then the next step after that, after you have it traced, is to start filling it in with paint. So we're going to be using either the acrylic paint that is in your art kit, or if you have watercolor, I would recommend using watercolor for this project, just because it is see-through and you can really blend and fade the colors well. But acrylic will still work great, which is in your art kit. And we're going to be using color schemes to fill it in with color. And then on top of that, once you fill in the values, you're going to be using charcoal to start adding detail and shading it in. So here's a few examples of just kind of some different directions that you can take this, how you can be creative and kind of go above and beyond the requirements that I just talked about. This student did something with the background that's creative, where they're using kind of a collage of different shapes. There's newspapers, different textures, and then the way that the face is filled in with multiple colors. And they also use colored pencil on this. So if you have a different material that you would like to use other than paint, let me know. Here's some examples of using different shapes. So that's a different technique that we'll look at, is maybe cutting out part of the portrait and putting it into a shape, or like this one on the left, it still has that collage in the background, different designs, and then a shape just kind of overlaid on top of it. Maybe you would rather do a black and white portrait and add some different kind of pops of color on top of it in a different way or in different shapes. If that's something you're interested in, you can definitely do that still. But as we're going through the steps, when you get to adding color, you would just use black in the shadows and then gray in the medium tones and leave the rest white. But that would be an interesting creative way so that you can incorporate a unique background or add some different pops of color throughout. Here's another one with a texture example. I know the portrait itself doesn't follow the exact requirements that we're going to be doing, but I liked the texture example. You could find maybe some different materials, such as this kind of fishnet material here that you're able to then paint on top of, and then when you take it away, it will leave a texture. So consider doing that. Maybe you want to use a different type of background other than just a plain piece of paper. So you could, before you start tracing your portrait, put down maybe some newspaper or paint it with a gradient or do something creative back there. And then add the color and paint on top of it. And here's another example of that. Maybe incorporating text into your portrait somehow, so writing the person's name that you're drawing in the foreground or background. And then again, something similar to just adding some different pops of color on top of your portrait. So there's a lot of ways to be unique with this, so start thinking about what you want to do and where you want to head. A few more things here for the steps on this project. All of the steps are on the class website that I'll show you in a minute with all of the videos listed walking you through each step. But the first step is going to be taking reference pictures, and I'll actually show you this on the class website here. But the first step after the intro to the project that we're doing now is reference pictures. So when you click on that, you can see the video that will walk you through setting up good lighting to get those highlights and shadows. And then you're going to be posturizing your photo. And then after that, you'll go on to step 3, which is facial feature practice. In each of these, you're going to do a before the video and an after the video drawing, so you can see your progress and what you learned and how much progress you have made within each facial feature. So you'll pause the video before I talk about the description, do a drawing, and then practice it along with the video. So you're going to do the eye, nose, lips, and hair for practice. And then step 4 is color scheme practice. So this, I'll talk a little bit about the different color schemes that there are and then how to mix certain colors to get each of those colors in the color wheel. And then also practicing value change with your paint. Because in each of the sections of your portrait, you're going to be creating value change from highlights to shadows. So very important to practice that. And then the last thing is going to be going through the steps of your actual portrait. So tracing it, adding highlights, shadows, and finalizing it with extra techniques at the end. But after you're done watching this, go ahead to the next step where you're going to be taking pictures, so under step 2, and make sure that you are taking your own reference pictures and following along with those videos.